And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, for me, I'm still in the 49th state of Alaska. Outstanding. Good morning. Bright, early Monday morning. I hope everyone had an awesome weekend. We're back giving you the scandal of the week. I mean, that's what it's come to at this point. So we got an internal NYPD power struggle. If anyone's been following along, if you're not abreast on what's going on right now. So apparently there's a petition that is going around right now. There's a petition going around right now. And that is where it's coming from, a reverend in New York City. And what they're saying is that there's not enough diversity at the upper ranks at the NYPD, and that the black and brown NYPD leadership has been pushed out, and that Jessica Tisch is running a racist operation. So, I mean, that's interesting. You have to say to yourself, the black and brown leadership has been pushed out. I mean, immediately what strikes to myself is, okay, I guess corruption is okay if they look like me. Keep in mind, this is coming from black reverends, black church. We've had scandal after scandal. And that's why we've seen black and brown leadership leave the door of the NYPD. John, what are your immediate thoughts about this NYPD power struggle, this petition? To me, I think it's disgusting that corruption is okay if they look like me.
So there's been a lot of groups. The first one you're talking about, Reverend Kevin McCall, he's put out a statement. He put out a whatever you want to do, like an organizing event, basically calling for more blacks in leadership in the NYPD. Total groupthink, group identity. I mean, it's ridiculous to me. It's like if you think someone should be promoted, give me a name. Give me a name. So I don't like it. But I also been getting tagged last week or two. Hispanic groups also are pushing the same thing. We need more Hispanics in NYPD leadership. There's not enough Hispanics. And it honestly, what I'm watching is a complete smear campaign against Jessica Tisch, who, by the way, is the police commissioner in name only. So this is total power struggle. This is total operation from behind the walls of One Police Plaza, coming out of Pearl Street and coming out of City Hall. And they're looking to throw Jessica Tisch out and I think implement Kaz Daughtry into the seat of the police commissioner, have John Schell take over as, I guess, deputy mayor of public safety, or vice versa. Something's happening there, because when I watch those groups going back and forth on social media, and then you see Pat Gordon, also head of the NYPD Guardians Association, he's pushing the same narrative. There is a coordinated smear campaign coming out, and I believe that Kaz Daughtry and John Schell are directly behind it.
Yeah. Morning, guys. Once again, I hope everyone had a great weekend as well. Boy, it never gets dull in the NYPD, does it? This is the latest scandal, and not to toot our own horns here, but we kind of called that they were gonna eventually go to race, and they'd eventually make it a racial thing, and because that's all they have left. That's their they have no way to argue against the all the corruption they've been involved in. So now they've got to turn it into a race thing. And mind you, they don't care about actual, say, black and Hispanic cops. They don't, because a lot of the victims of all their shenanigans has been black and Hispanic cops. So, it's not about helping anyone but themselves. It's not about doing anything but regaining access to the executive elevator and the 14th floors of 1PP. And again, I'd like to point out, before we get started, that this proves again Donald's point that the people in the executive ranks and in the upper echelon of 1PP that are working against him. And it's crazy that things are getting like this, but I think it might actually get worse before it gets better. So
also it kind of validates the I had put out a rumor about a week and a half ago. I had gotten information from different unnamed credible sources in the NYPD that Jessica Tisch would be stepping down and Kaz Daughtry would be coming in and Kaz Daughtry would come in as PC. Now it appears she may not be stepping down. She may be pushed out. And this is definitely an orchestrated an attack on Jessica Tisch. I find this absolutely disgusting that it's come to the point where for people like Patrick Gordon and Reverend McCall, that if they look like you, we can overlook corruption. And that's a problem. We don't have the time. It would just take us days. But if we go through the careers of some of the chiefs that have gotten pushed out, or they had to resign, or had to retire, let's look at the scandals that were behind them. I mean, we could just notably look at some prolific figures at the upper echelon of the NYPD that immediately stick out without even have to go over a roster. Let's look at Jeffrey Madry, chief of department, black. Let's look at Iglesias, the chief of IAB, black. Now we have another scandal with Henderson. It's just one after another. And unfortunately, it's not because they're black. It's because they're connected to Eric Adams. And that's what's going on here. It has nothing to do with race. But at the same token, it's embarrassing that, and I think Patrick Gordon is embarrassing himself. And the Guardians at this point, at some point, should say, wait a minute, Patrick Gordon, we appreciate your sticking up for us, but now you need to take a step back, because getting to this racist realm is completely discriminatory towards our brothers and sisters. But it's unfortunate, and you say it all the time, Marlon, and I agree with you. It's not about race. It's about access, because they want access to the goods and the amenities that the upper echelon could provide for them. And that's what it's about.
Well, it's about Pat Gordon getting LSA, his next bump, and staying, like he said, like riding on the elevator in 1PP. I think Marlon nailed it. I mean, you see, when you look at the list, there were 5 members of the NYPD who were transferred abruptly. They were issued CDs and transferred for showing up to mobile field force without their body cameras. That's what's being alleged. When you look at the names, it's black and Hispanic guys. And so members of the Guardians, I don't hear the Guardians saying shit about it. I don't hear anybody saying a word about anything. The unions are telling them, nah, it needs a department, bro. Complete insanity. I'm talking guys with SDS, guys in JTTF, the guys that have a long career. And what happens, right? You upend these guys because they made a mistake. Did they deserve a CD? I mean, at the most, maybe they deserved reinstruction. Don't let it happen again. Maybe, maybe a craft. I don't know, but maybe a CD at the most. But you give the guys a CD and then you transfer them and then they retire. I didn't hear a peep from Pat Gordon. I didn't hear Pat Gordon say anything about it. And even that stuff makes me think, like, is Jessica Tisch really behind that? Or is that somebody else pulling the strings and making her look bad? I still wonder because the stuff that I'm watching happen in the community, it really looks the same as the smear campaign that was used against myself, you, Eric, the podcast, painting us as an openly racist platform, which is absolutely ridiculous. The same type of smear that was used against Dana Rachel. It's the same type of, let's get all of our ducks in a row. Let's make calls and start to create this narrative. And when you look at it, like, if you hone in on what Pat Gordon's saying, he doesn't really go into the detail. He's going into some detail about, in particular, Winston Faison being kicked out of the aviation unit. He's like, oh, look, this is only the damage. It's a little damage to the helicopter, blah, blah, blah. We're kicking another black executive out. We're sending another black executive into retirement. But the one part he's just brushing over, and it's an allegation at this point, but it's a serious allegation. Was he interfering in a federal investigation? Was he instructing members of service to interfere in a federal investigation? You know, it was just a little bit of damage. Okay, maybe. But like, if that's the case, why wouldn't you fully cooperate in the investigation? What do you care? You're an executive. First time somebody made a bogus allegation against you. First time that you have to be involved in an investigation. I don't think so. You know what I mean? I don't think so. So to see like the way they're spinning that, he's spinning it from his end. The Hispanics in the NYPD are spinning it from their end. Everybody's anti-Tish, and they're using it as race, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, you don't realize that the last 3 police commissioners before Tish did not control this police department. They all told you they didn't control the police department. You all said they didn't control the police department. We know that they don't. And you think she's making these moves? I don't think she's making any of these moves. You know, and when you look at it, when you want to talk about racism, the only person held accountable for every scandal that came out is one Italian guy, Paul Saraceno. He's the only one that's been terminated. Everybody else has been kindly asked to leave the police department instead of Perp walked out in handcuffs, where the majority of them should have been. Perp walked out, terminated, no good guy letter, turn your guns in over there. Yeah, like that. And the only one that was terminated was Paul Saraceno. That's it.
Well, was he actually terminated, John? Because if you walk out with your pension, I'm not sure how much of a termination it is. Yeah.
I agree with you, but at least he still doesn't have his good guy letter. He doesn't have his firearm. You know, it's still a black mark on your career. That is written into law, and it's written in the law to protect police officers from the political whirlwinds that you're in. If you serve 20 years, you're entitled to your pension, regardless if you get arrested or whatever, unless you committed a felony, which, by the way, I think about 20 of them did. Yeah. And also those for Patrick Gordon to say that you know, it wasn't really damage. That's $40K worth of repairs that need to be done to that helicopter now. And those of you guys just catching up with us. So the allegations are that Chief Winston Faison of the NYPD Aviation, you know, he used the training helicopter, damaged it, and there are reports that need to be made to the FAA. And you know, he was trying to avoid it. I'll save that for when we get into the details. But I just want to point out here that in the NYPD, you record any damages to department property you're supposed to report. You know, so if you think of it, if you were to drive the RMP around and you crashed it, right? You crashed the RMP, which is the patrol vehicle in non-NYPD terms. You damage the vehicle, you go back to the precinct, and you didn't tell anybody, right? And later on, they discover, it got a big dent in the side of the vehicle. Okay, now would you get in trouble for it? Of course you would. Of course you would. So for him to say that is kind of ridiculous when you're talking about department property that's even more. You know, that's even more valuable. That's even more expensive to even more costly to repair. So it's a nonsense, and it's a little delusional to stand up for people who again continue to embarrass the department and who continue to prove that they are incompetent leaders. You know. I mean, does Patrick Gordon actually care about the job? Because if you care about the department, then you would want there to be a competent leadership, and you'd want there to be structure and you know, as I said many times, for these guys to leave the job in a better place than when they got there. And people like Faison don't, you know, and they're not competent leaders, and they don't deserve to be in those positions or to continually. And they shouldn't be in positions where they could continually embarrass the department.
We got a great comment here. It comes from Special Hagen. The fact that these clergymen are not attacking the corruption is a problem. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right in that statement right there. In my opinion, what they're saying, clergy in this petition, Patrick Gordon, they're saying corruption is okay if they look like me. That's a huge problem. All these folks who were removed or resigned were either corrupt or inept. These clergymen are strong and wrong. Absolutely. And you know what? I think the ultimate problem when we talk about the incident in aviation, yes, is it going to cost $40,000 or maybe more? Of course. Is that problematic? Yes. But that's not a big deal. These things happen. Cops drive RMPs, which stands for radio motor patrol car, right? On a daily basis. Cars get wrecked. They crash. It's part of the budget. It's in policing. It's unfortunate, but it's a byproduct of policing in such a voluminous city, right? A metropolis. And it costs money. Same thing if they're doing training exercises or in a live event. Things do happen. Things can happen. It costs money. But that's not the problem. The problem is the cover-up. Which coffee mug is that?
Royal Crown, baby.
That's a good spot, by the way. Shout out. I haven't been there in years, by the way. It's a great bakery in Staten Island. But
somebody's making fun of my mug, so I just wanted to show.
I thought maybe you got a new mug for the finest unfiltered that I didn't see. But the bottom line is the problem is that the integrity by numerous leaders we have seen at the upper management of the NYPD that are Eric Adams appointees. That's the problem. The fact that they were trying to cover up the accident. That's where the problem comes in. It shows low morality, low integrity at the upper echelon. They're supposed to set the example, excuse me, for the entire police department. How can we expect boots on the ground, low-level management to have integrity when the upper management has zero integrity right now? So this whole thing of it's okay if they look like me is absolutely ridiculous. So the question is this. This is what you have to ask yourself. And this is what I'm thinking. Could this be an orchestrated attack with Eric Adams? Could Eric Adams be in on this orchestrated attack to get Jessica Tisch out there so that he doesn't have to do it himself, so it doesn't look like he got rid of, the first white Jewish female who's part of the 43rd richest family to get Kaz Daughtry in there or to get some other Adams crony in? That's the question.
I don't think so. I think that it is coming from him just because the idiots he surrounded himself with don't really care about him. They care about themselves more. They care about their own egos more. Like, Kaz, I think, already thinks he's bigger than Eric Adams. So, he's going to orchestrate anything he can. This is like it really is a coup d'etat coming. It's the Adams camp split. I think Marlon named it like Battle of the Woke, right? We named the episode, like the thumbnail for the episode, like Revenge of the Woke. And by the way, John Shell's on the wrong side there. He's right under Kaz's balls. So right snugged up, right, like right here, like with his head, like right there. So we just messed it up. We just couldn't get it in there. But it's all part of it's this DEI monster that all these woke libs like Rebecca Weiner and Jessica Tisch and all these other ones that are sitting up there in power that they all fed for the last decade, it's coming back to bite them in the ass. And so it's a coup d'etat inside of the Adams administration. He would have a big problem if Tisch is out of there because the New York media is not going to be friendly to Kaz Daughtry. They love Jessica Tisch. They love her family's money a lot more. And we've seen how good the reporting has changed on the NYPD, right? I mean, I don't even know how many shootings we had last night in the Bronx. Bronx was off the hook last night. Shooting after shooting after shooting after shooting. And yet, if I open up the New York Post today or the Daily News, I'm going to read about history and crime numbers. You know what I mean? And I think it's actually the complete opposite of what's happening, and they're lying about the crime numbers. Everybody knows it. They're lying about making history. Everybody knows it. The media is not reporting it. So I don't think that Eric Adams is directly involved. He is because he's an incompetent idiot manager and he empowered people that should not be in these positions. I mean, we were talking about it don't know who I was talking about yesterday, but look at all the firsts. Look at all the firsts in his thing. I had the first of this, the first black, the first Latino, the first this, the first that. And honestly, they were people that were undeserving of those positions, and they embarrassed their heritage. You know, the first Latino police commissioner was an embarrassment. You know, like it's like, you know what I mean? And look at the first CO of aviation unit in the NYPD, black CO, is an embarrassment. You know what I mean? And so like it's a joke. You know, he makes himself look like an idiot. He obviously created this whole thing, but do I think he's directly behind it? No, this is going to hurt him a lot more than it's going to help him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say he's not behind it also, because I agree with John that this is more trouble for Adams than he needs right now, you know, and he needs, see, that thumbnail is if you ever seen the Avengers Civil War poster, that thumbnail kind of is supposed to replicate it, because what we have here is like a woke on woke civil war within the NYPD. You know, you have like Patrick Gordon and the cronies of Madry and Adams and Banks, and who are those cronies who are using Afrocentrism as a cover for their cronyism. Again, like we said, they don't care about Black, Hispanic. They don't care about anybody but themselves. Okay. And then on the other side, you're going to have Tish, and you know, the left progressives love her. The left progressive elites, they love her. Okay. And here you have one side calling the other racist, you know? So it's what we're getting is a internal a battle in the NYPD, and you know, it's kind of an embarrassment for the department that this is happening. And again, like I said last go around, it shows just how much insubordination and how much people are working to undermine Tish, which is exactly what Donaldson said. And I'll give you another example, right? So if you look down, the fourth person or the third person down, just below Patrick Gordon, who's just under Kaz, is Scott Henderson. He's the chief of Brooklyn North, right? So Scott Henderson, you know, he's already facing allegations from Captain Gabby Walls, who's Black, by the way. Okay, he's facing sexual harassment allegations against her. Okay, she has an ongoing case against the city, so he's already costing the city money. And like we've said before, this guy might as well be Scott Madry, you know, because in a lot of ways he's like his mentor, you know, Jeffrey Madry. So he's already costing the city money. He's an embarrassment, and again, he's not helping it. His presence doesn't help any Black cops. Okay, but this guy was his ego is so big that he wanted a walkout, and Tish apparently blocked him from having a walkout. But right, he now goes to this. The rumor is he went to the 7-9 precinct and still had a small walkout. Okay, which is kind of crazy that the PC, the boss, okay, tells you no, you can't do it, and you find some way to go and do it anyway. Okay, which to me is crazy. Even you may say, oh, it's just a walkout, but no, it's not about that. It's because can you imagine people doing this under Ray Kelly? You know, Ray Kelly told you not to do it, and then you go do it anyway, right? It's absurd, you know, and it just goes to show you how much they're trying to undermine Tish. So I know you're watching, Tish, and your people are watching. So, and I'm sure you probably heard about it already. So how does it feel knowing that you told him not to do it and he still went and did it anyway? Okay, so it's an embarrassment. And how are these guys supposed to go and tell younger cops that, you know, they have to abide by the paramilitary structure and the rank? You know, they have to listen to rank and you know, and follow the rules when they themselves aren't, and they themselves are trying to undermine the PC right now.
I think also what's important to note is the pattern of behavior from the Eric Adams administration, from the top and from the bottom, almost like sandwiched in, right? What's happening? what's happening below the police commissioner at the upper echelon of the NYPD and what's coming from Eric Adams. And we see a complete disregard and undermine for the PCs under Eric Adams. We see it with Key Chan Sewell. She was completely undermined. She was there. She had the access, but she didn't have the authority. We see it with Ed Caban. Same thing, a figurehead, just completely useless and insignificant. We see it with Tom Donlin, which validates and it shows the pattern of behavior, and it solidifies Tom Donlin's his claims in his lawsuit. And then we see it with Jessica Tisch. And we see there is a power struggle because there is no power by the police commissioner. That's a complete disregard and complete disrespect for the position of police commissioner. There was complete direction, and they were told not to have a walkout. Whether you agree with it or not, that came from the police commissioner, who is supposed to be the leader and the boss of the NYPD. So I had posed that question before, right? Is Eric Adams part of what's going on? Could he be? So I like to say this: simplicity is complicit. And Eric Adams may not be directly involved in this orchestrated campaign, but he's pretty silent also. He knows what's going on. He's highly aware of it. So he's not saying anything either. So to me, simplicity is complicit. So he's not trying to put a stop to it. And that would be real leadership. Real leadership would say, listen, we need to pump the brakes and stop. This is complete discrimination. Let's go over what's happened. And you would want to stop the imploding that's happening in the NYPD right now, because this is imploding on all levels. So again, that's why I say all the chiefs that are active right now at the upper echelon are compromised, because silence is complicit. And that's what's going on. Eric Adams is just completely silent in this because maybe it works for him. Maybe it works for him at some point to put another idiot in place like Kaz Daughtry, who's going to go out there and just do content creation. And Eric Adams has even more power. Because right now, I'm not saying he doesn't have power, but he may have to kind of balance it out and tip the scales, because Jessica Tisch is intelligent. She is a good manager. I'm not saying she's a great commissioner, but she is a good manager, and she's intelligent. And it may take a little more effort to pull the wool over her eyes and to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, so one, I just think that Adams isn't addressing at the moment because it's not even news right now. Like, no one knows about this. This is the only thing, unless you're watching the Finest Unfiltered or following like what we're tweeting about, like nobody knows about this. This has not hit mainstream yet. This, if it continues and is allowed to fester, it'll start to break within the week. You're going to start to see the calls, the protests, the calls for her to resign. So he's trying to squash this behind the scenes, Eric Adams. There's no way that he wants this. This is a Kaz Daughtry. This has Kaz Daughtry and John Shell written all over it. I see it clear as day. It's everything that they consistently do. They're great at the smear, and then like shame on the Guardians, because let's really talk about the Eric Adams administration. You want a fifth police commissioner in 3 years? You want a fifth police commissioner in 3 years? When let's I think everybody forgot. You had the first black female police commissioner, Key Chan Sewell. She ran out in the middle of the night. Why? Everything points to exactly what happened to Tom Donlin. And you think those same forces that still remain in the NYPD at much higher levels aren't still working to undermine the PC? I mean, that's what happened to the first black female police commissioner. And where the hell were the Guardians? They didn't say shit, right? And then you had the first Latino come in, right? And the Hispanic Society, they loved it, right? It was party all the time, right? We changed when King became the party department. And how'd that work out for you guys? How'd that work out for you? You look like a bunch of skells, right? And now, and then you have Donlin comes in. He's trying to make waves. They undermine him. And now you have Tisch, and you're consistently seeing her being undermined. There's many things that are happening here that it's all behind the scenes. It's a secret coup d'etat right now. They're trying to get enough media on it to bring it up. I don't think that's successful. I agree with Ralph. Ralph Salento from The Key. He's on here. He says the Tisch family runs a super PAC and donates hundreds of thousands of dollars into New York City political campaigns. She's not leaving until she wants to leave. I agree with you, Ralph, but here's the issue. Do they make her want to leave? And when you're just constantly being undermined, people get sick of it. And they're like, what am I doing this for? Again, the woman doesn't even take a salary. So I think that, honestly, I just think that the people that are in power underneath her, particularly John Schell, who's the chief of department, the highest uniform rank, should have been removed on day one, immediately breaking the scandal around Ed Caban. So should have Tanya Kinsella. So should have Jeffrey Madry. So should have Kaz Daughtry. They should have removed the whole upper echelon of the NYPD. She didn't. And this is the result of it. Those forces are still there, and they're looking to undermine her. And they want to make her job so hard that she's like, you know what? There's nothing I could do here because he's not going to let me get rid of them. And I'm in a no-win situation, and I'm just done. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah. To Eric's point, I'm going to say Eric Adams is quiet now because this situation puts him in that awkward place where he doesn't want to comment on it because he wants the support of these clergymen in Brooklyn, and he doesn't want to upset the progressive elite who, he also has Cuomo in the wings looking for their support. So it puts him in an awkward place, and that's why I don't think he necessarily wants it. Even though I don't also necessarily think he would care if, or I don't necessarily think he doesn't want one of his cronies back in the PC's office, instead of Tisch, someone like Kaz or somebody else that's part of the bank's Madry circle, because it just makes things more convenient for him. He doesn't have, I'm sure he gets pushback, a little bit of pushback from Tisch, even though, like we said, we don't think she's fully in control. Okay. But because, again, you look at the example of Tariq Shepard, that guy should have been bumped back down to deputy inspector, but he was just brought back down to assistant chief, 2-star chief. So the thing is, we don't think she's necessarily in total control, but I believe due to her family's wealth and influence over the city, that she does get a little bit of room to maneuver. And my example would be when she basically told Kaz to move aside and let Rebecca talk. I'm sure Kaz wasn't too happy with that. But yeah, I don't necessarily think he doesn't want his cronies back in the PC's office, because then it gives him that control that he wants, that total control he wants, and less pushback. So
now, while Patrick Gordon is playing the race card, which I think is absolutely disgusting. I mean, that's the playbook, right? It's like, all right, we tried this, we tried that. Oh, we still got the race card. That's always the game. Oh, here we go. When it gets tough, try to shut that podcast down. That finest unfiltered can't stop. Let's try the race card. And that's what we see right now. Let's pull the race card. But the question is, why are they pulling the race card, right? Because really, honestly, Patrick Gordon doesn't care if they're black. Patrick Gordon doesn't care if they're white, because clearly he doesn't care about Marlon. Marlon was terminated. Where was Patrick Gordon? I think Marlon's black. I think Patrick Gordon's black. He didn't care about that. Because if they were all white and he had more power than he has right now, he'd be in the cheering section. He'd be loving to be clapping away. This is about power at the top. Who's got the power? Who's got the access? Who's got the ability? Who gets all the amenities? And that's what ultimately this is about. These are Patrick Gordon's connections. As these black, unfortunately, disappearance of impropriety and black chiefs that have been at the core of these scandals are resigning and retiring, Patrick Gordon loses his power that's at the top right now. And John, as you said, I'm surprised he doesn't have LSA already. So that's what this is about. It's about having power and having it at the top. By the way, you just put up Faison's arrest record. So John Show, if you watch this, by the way, I have more than double those arrests right there. So every time you talk about who's qualified and who's not, maybe you need to start looking at your own tweets and start looking at your own people within the police department. This is obviously ridiculous. But again, this is not about qualifications. This is not about race. It's about power. Race is just how they weaponize to have this internal struggle to win. And that's what it's about. These are self-serving assholes, honestly. Patrick Gordon, people like that, all they do is care about themselves and care about the access, because you'd rather have corrupt, inadequate upper echelon leadership because it works for you than have good leadership that has integrity, that is for your brothers and sisters with the boots on the ground. So that's why I say all the time, people say, oh, the NYPD is a family. What family? A corrupt family? Is that what you're telling me?
A crime family. It's a crime family. You know,
family.
I mean, listen, they're just using race because that's, you know, it's the easiest thing. It's the soft underbelly of America. You know, I mean, it's the easiest thing to go on, right? It's classic communistic divisive tactics to, you know, to group identify, rally the base, and it works. I mean, because, you know, you see people like, what about me? What about me? I'm like, what about me? What about the Italian? You know, and it works. But like when you look at the reality of it, you're like, wait, time out. Why were these guys actually? How'd they get there? Oh, they got there because they were black, right? Oh, so we skipped over all their qualifications because they were black. And then when we put them there, they failed miserably. And then you want them to stay and you don't expect them to be asked to leave even after, like, again, you know, people make mistakes. If Faison just messed up with the helicopter, you know, once, I think it's terrible, but people make mistakes, right? You said it. People crash cars. People, you know, should there be something to pay? Yeah. I mean, listen, military guys get court-martialed, right? You mess up a Humvee, you mess up a tank, you mess up a plane, you're answering for that. That's not that's not OCD. You're getting charges and specs. You're going to a military tribunal. Like, you know, so, you know, it's, you know, should there be accountability for things like that, especially multi-million-dollar equipment? Of course there should be. But I think the bigger thing besides that is, and that's an issue. And if you're consistently having those issues, then obviously you shouldn't be the commanding officer. But if you tried to cover that up, you shouldn't be the commanding officer. And then if you interfered in the federal investigation, should you be a commanding officer or even a cop? I mean, like, where's your integrity? There are serious integrity issues happening. The other thing that's happening with Henderson, right? We said that he was named in the lawsuit of Gabby Walls, and you know, the Guardians are nowhere for Gabby Walls. I haven't heard them put out a statement, right? Believe all women unless it's Eric Adams and any of his crew that are accusing them, right? That's the note that I got from the Adams administration, is like, believe all women except if it's us, you know, and your body, your choice, unless I tell you to do something, you know? And so, like, I see the total hypocrisy, but people are like, oh, you know, they're going after Henderson because he helped this girl out and her mom was sick and she had cancer and she screwed Henderson. And, you know, there's something, if you watch right now you're watching the Finest Unfiltered, where the New York Post, the Daily News, New York Times, they all go get to their news for the NYPD, because Marlon had told you about that 3 weeks prior to it all happening, right? And, you know, and so now they're playing that Henderson, who's the chief of Brooklyn North, is the victim because he let a girl stay home, collect overtime while her mother was out with cancer, and then supposedly let her stay 7 months past working home, collecting overtime, working from home. So I don't think he's a victim in anything. You know, I dealt with the loss of my father. I know officers that dealt with the loss of their children, with the loss of their loved one, and they weren't afforded anything like that. So I don't think that Henderson's a victim here at all. And I want to know, why was she granted that access? You know, do I believe that if she was a male employee, she would have been granted that access? I don't think so. I don't think any males would be like, oh, your mom's dying. Oh yeah, you could just stay home. Don't worry about it. And yeah, put in for overtime. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't think that that's happening. And I'm like, Why did he say that she could stay home? Was there some type of relationship there that, was there some type of subordinate relationship going on? I mean, Marlon calls him Scott Madry. I mean, so, I think like people are sitting there trying to play poor Scott Henderson, and I'm sitting there, and then other people are saying, oh, it's she's the victim because he told her to stay home and she listened. And then she stayed home for another 7 months while you guys are all working, sweating, freezing, and she's putting in overtime. And and she was told to by the chief of Brooklyn North, and so she should be allowed. It's unfair that now the job's looking to come after her. And while I agree that she did have the authorization, she was given the authorization. I still don't think that she's innocent in the whole thing. I think the whole thing's a debacle, and he should have been ousted from being the chief of Brooklyn North. Ma, what are your thoughts around that? You broke that story first. Like, what are your thoughts around that whole debacle?
Well, so that cop actually made more overtime in 2024 than she did in 2023 when she was actually had to show up in the
Well, it's easy to do overtime from home, right?
Yeah. But the other thing is her mother was the head of the 8-3 community council, so she was very prominent in that community, and she was actually visited by Kinsella and Madry. So
what do you mean? Who was visited by Kinsella? The mom or her?
The mom. So it just shows you how prominent she was, right? I believe when her health was declining, she was visited by them. But the problem here is, I know some of you executives watching, like some of you chiefs watching, or people from 1PP are gonna say, "Oh well, a chief can do that," Well, yes, he can. We've heard from our own executives that a chief has the power to do that, but he needs to go about it the right way, and he needs to let One Police Plaza and headquarters know that, and it needs to be done on paper. So he has to put in the paperwork for it. However, the problem here is that now even after her mom passed away and she came back to work, he told her no, she can go back home again. And when he refused, when another cop had an issue that they needed to take time off, he refused them. And when an internal affairs found out, he threw the same cop, Barbara Smith's daughter. He threw her under the bus and said that he didn't know anything about her being sent back home again. So if Patrick Gordon's gonna say, well, he was trying to take care of the cop and he was looking out for the cop, okay, if he was, then why did he throw her under the bus? Okay, and that's the problem. Okay, if you're gonna do this for the cop, then you got to do it the right way. And when stuff goes sideways or when stuff hits the fan, you got to stand up for it. Stand up and take accountability for it. Instead, he threw her under the bus, lied on an internal affairs investigation, and he did some other things, which I'm not going to say here, but he did some other things. Basically, he lied to internal affairs, right? And the internal affairs already had like tons of messages from him that he had sent to the cop stating that she could do this, so he lied to them and thought he could get away with it, so it's like it's absurd that these guys are protecting him. And the problem here is that he threw the cop under the bus. And I think Graham Raymond, the reporter who wrote it, needs to. I don't know why that wasn't in the article that he threw her under the bus. So, by the way, now that cop is jammed up in Queens Court, and she owes the job a year's worth of time. So if the chief okayed it, why is she giving up a year in time for the job? Which one is it? And now you let the chief walk out the door. So
So So I see, there's so many layers here. There's so many things to discuss here that there's problems with, right? So for one, let me just say that, you know what, someone that went through a child battling cancer, I always say, thank God I was retired, because I don't know how I would have sustained that battle while working. It really became a full-time job, going to doctors and this and that. And so I can understand, and I empathize and sympathize with her having a sick mother. I do. And I really have no problem with the chief saying, hey, stay home. I have a problem with the overtime part. Stay home, take care of your mother. But the problem I have with that is it's not a level playing field. I highly doubt that some poor cop that's kicking around a sector, Sector Adam in the 7-7 precinct or somewhere, any precinct, is going to get afforded that same opportunity. That's where I have a problem. It goes back to what I say about the different tiers on the job. If you're general population, you're not getting the same amenities as someone else, and the discipline that falls upon you is much different for someone else. It's harsh. That's where I have the problem. It's not a level playing field. The other problem that I have is numerous people have texted me as well and said, well, the chief has the authority to do it. And I said, well, maybe that's part of the problem also, is that these chiefs have too much power. And we see what happens, especially when you have weak, inept, and low morality, and low integrity people that are being in positions of power. It's dangerous. Weak men with power are dangerous. That's why I say we need strong alpha men and strong alpha women that are in positions of power, because weak men, inept people of weak egos in these positions with so much power, to me, it's dangerous. It's costing the city money. It's costing the city numerous allegations. And I will say this. It's an inference. We don't know, Marlon, but I agree. And I agree with you, John, also. None of these chiefs are doing something for someone just out of their good heart. And I would put my money on it. If that was a male law enforcement officer, he would not be staying home for over a year. So is there a relationship there? We don't know. It's an inference. But I can tell you right now, from my experience, a man is not staying home for over a year in that position. Absolutely not. And especially what we see going on right now. But it really does hone in that these chiefs have far too much power. Far too much power. So when you give the keys to the car to someone that's going to drive reckless, this is your byproduct right here, right? You don't want to give a kid a keys to a car. If you had a kid and you had a Ferrari and your kid didn't have the maturity level and they didn't understand and respect that car, you wouldn't give them the keys to it. But yet we have people that don't respect women. We have people that don't respect the public. We have people that don't respect themselves. They don't respect the profession. They don't respect their police commissioner, Jessica Tisch. And we gave them keys to that car. And this is the byproduct. And that's why this job is out of control. And that's why it's a major problem. Weak men cause hard times. Hard times with the NYPD and embarrassing times.
If I can quickly, John, you guys should be even more angry about this. You guys who are watching. I'll tell you why. During the scamdemic, there were women who were pregnant who needed that time. Okay. Who could have used that time off so that they could have given birth to their children without having to take that medical experiment. Were they given? Did the department give that accommodation to them? No, it told them get the shot or you're fired. Okay, so this is what really gets me about this thing. I mean, me and John could have used that time off. Instead, you told us get the shot or we're out of here. Okay. So those of you thinking, okay, the chief he could have done that. He was helping out. No, it's not fair. And if they have this ability, then this, other people who especially needed it during that time should have been given that accommodation to, and they weren't.
Yeah. And so Ralph's here, right? Like Ralph's talking. He's like, I carried a detective on the roll call for 3 weeks while his newborn son was in danger of dying in the hospital. I signed him in present from duty from the hospital every day. No overtime. So here's the difference, though, Ralph. One, you weren't giving him overtime; you were just taking care of him, and you knew where he was, you knew what he was doing. You were helping him out. That's leadership. But now, if somebody would have questioned you, you would have said, "I signed him in. I took care of it. I did this. I did that." Right? And that's leadership, right? You would have jumped right in front of him. No. I told him to do that. His son's dying. Yeah, I did that for my guys. And that's the leadership that I was brought up under. I was brought up under leadership by men. I was brought up under leadership that earned their positions. I was brought up to have integrity. I was taught to get in front of your people. But what I watched from the NYPD chief of department is, I didn't sign those overtime slips. It's like, wait, oh, so you were just banging her, but you didn't sign those overtime slips. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So you didn't have any. No. He didn't know what was happening in his office. He's just running the whole job, but he didn't know about the 20 people in his office. Like, okay. And then when you watch with Henderson, it's like, I didn't know she was still staying home. I didn't tell her to stay home. It's like, really, bro? You didn't? And it's disgraceful. It's honestly, it's disgraceful leadership, because it's not leadership. It's cowardice. And again, why are they in that position? Like, I always liked Jeff Madry. I thought he was a nice guy. But I'll tell you a story. I used to get sent to the platoon commander meeting when I was a young sergeant, because I didn't have a platoon commander. Right? I didn't have a lieutenant. So they would send me to the platoon commander meeting. The inspector would be up there stuttering, talking about whatever. This is what's going on. We need to do this. The chief said this. Whatever it was. I forget the guy's name, but he would be up there stuttering, bald white guy, Brooklyn South. And here's Jeff Madry. And I'm like, why are we here? Here's a one-star chief sleeping in this meeting. I'm like, why am I here? Like, this is ridiculous. This is like ridiculous. This is the stupid. Like, and he's like sleeping. And like could care less about what was happening on the job. And then, and that's the thing, nice guy, but work ethic wise, I mean, should he have been promoted? Ever been promoted to chief of department? I don't think so. I mean, anytime I ever seen him, it was nothing to do with work, and if he was there, he was kind of like a voice of reason, and people liked him, and he got along with the community. But as far as like the overall mission of the NYPD, no. And then you saw it clear as day, and that's the result. Oh, I didn't sign those overtime slips. He did. Like, oh, wow, leader of men, highest uniform member of the service in the department. And by the way, I got stories up the yin yang about Shell too. They're not from me, so I'm not going to tell them. But I know for a fact they happen, because they're from very credible people.
It goes back to we did. If anyone ever gets a chance, when we talk about the nice guy syndrome of the NYPD, everyone's a nice guy. I'm sure most of these guys that are getting in trouble right now, they're probably all nice guys. But behind the nice guy mask, is there a good guy there? Madry's a nice guy, but apparently he wasn't a good guy. He was nice to the community. A lot of people liked him. I know a lot of the cops that liked him. I personally didn't like him. I know a lieutenant personally that went to training and asked a couple of questions, and they made a phone call to Madry. They didn't like that he was asking questions, and he was bounced in 2 seconds. He was transferred. So I can care less if you're a nice guy. Are you a good guy? That's what's important. Hood Mayor says I'm not a nice guy. That's hilarious. Yeah, but you're a good guy. You're a friend and listen to this podcast. But what I'm saying is, who cares if they're nice? Are they good? And what we see in this pattern right now, what's going on in this upper echelon, is just complete abuse of power. And I agree. Who said it before? Ralph. Yeah, you should take care of your people. But what's important in leadership is taking ownership. Part of being a good leader is taking ownership. And that's where Henderson was supposed to step in and say, I have the power, I have the access and the authority. I gave her permission to stay home. Here's why. And I gave her overtime. Here's why. And if that was a mistake, I'll take full responsibility and ownership for it. Do I blame her? No. I mean, listen, there are plenty of people out there. If you tell them to stay home and they're getting paid, what are they going to say? No, I'm not going to do it. But that's why I say right now, who's the dummy of the day? And then, I did a little video about who's the dummy of the day, and I say Terrell Anderson is the dummy of the day. Who's going to be the next dummy? Because it's come at this point within this police department that before you authorize something, You have to ask yourself, is this going to come back to me? Of the upper echelon, is the upper echelon of the NYPD, these chiefs, are they going to back me up or are they going to leave me hanging? And you know the answer. They're going to leave you hanging right now. You have to constantly ask questions. Right, John, you have to, at this point, you have to probe the upper echelon and go, wait a minute. You need like a contract, like a full disclosure. Can you sign this saying that you gave me the authority? I need this on paper because you're going to be holding it bag by yourself. How does the chief of department? The chief of department should know everything about the job. The chief of department, is at these overtime meetings with New York City Council to discuss overtime, but then you say you didn't sign the slips? This is the most ridiculous thing that we let him get away with this. Again, how do we have so much power? Where's the checks and balances? Right now, there's no checks and balances because they're all weak. They're all they're all in a power struggle. These are not the right people in this spot. And you see how dangerous it becomes. If you had one person that was inept, then the other chiefs could police their own and force that person out. But you have a complete upper echelon that's inept, and you have too many chiefs that are silent. And to me, that makes them more complicit.
Well, how much overtime did she do while she was home? Do you know? Or just a roundabout?
It's at least 100 hours.
I hear it's 150. Some people are saying it's 150,000.
Yeah.
No, 150,000 overtime or 150 hours?
No, 150 hours.
150,000 in overtime. That's what I hear. I don't know. It's true.
Before the show is up, I'll pull it up. I have to go through the spreadsheet I have with it on.
Yeah, so I don't know how that contract's going to work. So if I'm part of your on-duty booty program, then I get to work from home. And how many that you need a lawyer to draw up that contract, Eric? I get to work from home and all I have to do is sleep with you X amount of times a week. Okay, how many videos do I have to send you? And are promotions involved? You have to negotiate it all right there. The promotions, overtime amount, all that stuff. So, but it's just completely disgraceful. And I think that's the thing. It's and they're doubling down on the disgrace. Pat Gordon, what he's doing is he's leading the charge, right? But he's not the only one making phone calls, right? I would bet money the chief of department and the deputy mayor are making phone calls. Hey, she's a racist. Hey, could we get out there? Hey, could we do this? Right? I would put anything on it. That's what's happening. And that's what's going to start circulating this week. We need Tish to step down. Honestly, I said it the day she got promoted that I love the appointment because she's a billionaire and because her family is so powerful. I'm saying right now, I would chop all their heads off right now. I would have chopped all their heads off on day one, but I would chop their heads off right now. Pat Gordon would be working in the 5-0 right now. You know what I mean? Pat Gordon would not be any liaison to anything. He'd be in the 5-0. John Shell would be go get your job in Newsmax. Everybody's gone. I'm chopping heads. And so what happened? The NYPD is like Game of Thrones. They see a soft spot and they're attacking. And it's not even that soft of a spot because again, look at what they're doubling. They're using corruption and they're saying, oh no, it's not corruption. It's because they're black. They're totally disregarding all the corruption scandals. It's honestly, it's an attack and it's a narrative so dumb that only Kaz Daughtry and John Shell could have came up with.
Yeah, and John means metaphorically chop the heads off. Okay, so don't send the JTTF after John and Rebecca. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean metaphorically, I would say have a nice life, enjoy your $30,000 a month, and your fake injury that you're gonna get 3/4 for, and I would say bye. Deputy mayor, you can't do nothing with as a police commissioner, but I would be the police commissioner. I'd be like, oh, you appointed me, Eric Adams. You want me out? Go ahead, point your fifth one. Go ahead. Oh, and guess what? All my media contacts and all my friends, they're not with you no more. There's a guy in a red beret I start to like a little bit better.
Yeah. So what's funny about this is that to go back to Henderson for a second. He he wasn't going to get his good guy letter initially, and those same clergymen they bitched and moaned to Tish. So then they went back and they granted him his good guy letter. So what's funny about that is Saraceno doesn't have a good guy letter, but Henderson gets to have his good guy letter, right? So and here we have Patrick Gordon saying that alluding to it's there's race here and there's we need more diversity. Well, here it is, the other chief doesn't get to walk out with his good guy letter, but this guy does. So yeah, it's it's merely them arguing for the keys to the for the keys to the kingdom again, and not to actually help anybody but themselves.
Shout out to Vias S. Ventores, Coffee and Donuts Brother, $5. John Shell should be sentenced to running on a treadmill for all eternity. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck. Let's see if that guy actually walks out of his office. Listen, the bottom line is this power struggle is just it's a big facade. It's a big facade to make people get invested and emotionally charged by racist ideology and people that are not really paying attention and just see what's going on the surface. Because really, this is about what we're talking about, Marlon. Just access and having power. I'm sure Patrick Gordon sees himself as a potential commissioner somewhere down the line. I'm sure that's in the works. I wouldn't be surprised. So, but again, this is complete discriminatory towards Saraceno. Saraceno found himself in deep waters. So is Henderson. So are some of these other chiefs. But yet, some got good guy letters, and Saraceno didn't. You know what? And the only common denominator in that is that he's not white. So, if any discrimination that I see, it's discrimination towards white males, not the other way around. But again, I don't even think we should go down that road. The bottom line, this is about power. It's about access. It's about amenities, about self-promotion, about paving the way for yourself and for your offspring. Again, this is about self-serving people. When you get the wrong people in these positions, an extreme amount of power, who have this desire for greed, this is what you get. This is the byproduct right here. This is what's going on right now. We're giving out overtime. And you know what? Honestly, I feel sorry for her. Right? She was home taking care of a sick mother. He gave her the overtime. He gave her the ability to do it. And now he didn't have the balls to stand up for her. Right? And so you know what? Whatever else is going on behind the curtain, if it's somewhere similar to Epps, I'm sure we'll hear about it soon. I'm sure Eric Sanders will get a call at some point. Because that's absolutely ridiculous. Stand up for her and say, hey, I gave her the authority to stay home. I gave her the ability to do overtime. But it just shows weak cowards. This is what we see by the upper echelon. And again, I'll say it. They're all compromised. No one's speaking up. Who's going to stand up at this point and say, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. I've been in the NYPD for 30 years. I'm a chief. This is embarrassing. I don't even want to work in this environment anymore. Not one chief is saying that. They're all just saying, oh, hey, maybe I'll get a star. A couple of these chiefs got knocked off. Hey, that's room for me to get a star. That's all they care about. Shame on them. That's why I don't care when people say, oh, how could you say they're all compromised? They are. Every active chief is compromised. John, ask yourself. Marlon, ask yourself. And I know it. Everyone here in the Finance Unfiltered. If we were working right now, there's no way that we would be silent. We would say, this is disgusting. This is ridiculous. Look at the environment. I'm not even working there anymore. I'm retired. And it's embarrassing to tell people throughout the country in my travels that I was in the NYPD. Because every time that conversation comes up, right away, people go, what's going on in that city? Wow. It's embarrassing. And if you think the country's not watching, you're out of your minds.
No, yeah. It really all comes down to that. It just comes down to the fact there's no leadership. The leadership under Eric Adams isn't there. The management style under Eric Adams isn't there. I mean, look, where did Marjorie get that idea from? That, oh, it wasn't me. I didn't sign those slips. Where did Henderson get that idea from? Oh, I didn't tell her that. Where did he get that idea from? Eric Adams. The guy, how many corruption scandals is this guy directly involved? Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't know. And they used the media to paint out. He just made some bad appointments of friends. He just made some. How about he made 200 appointments that are horrible? How about every little detail that he's involved in? He just pretends, I don't know. Why don't you want Marlon back at work? Oh, I don't know, corp counsel. You know, why'd you do this? Oh, I don't know. That's what my legal team's telling me. Why'd you sign why'd you sign the protest settlement agreement? Oh, I don't know. Legal. I don't know. Like the furthest thing from leadership, dude. It's the furthest thing from leadership in this city. And honestly, like I get a lot of guys don't like Jessica Tisch. Totally get it. Totally understand it. But again, listen to what you're being told about her. Did she really make those transfers? Or were those transfers made by somebody else and then she's being blamed for it? Did Shell go to bat for those guys? Think Michael Gerber went to bat for those guys? Think Kaz Daughtry went to bat for those guys? I don't think so, right? You got, when you look at that issue right there, 5 guys show up late to mobile field force, and people were getting transferred for showing up late, right? You got 5 guys in details. They show up late. 3 of them were sergeants. 1 of them had the money. Over 20 years. They made a mistake. Like, are you as a lieutenant or as a captain or as a chief, are you saying, I'm transferring this guy to Brooklyn North on patrol? I'm taking him out of JTTF on patrol because he forgot his body camera to a detail. I'm not. But guess what? Those were people of color. Pat, where are you? I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear you, Pat. I didn't hear you anywhere. I didn't hear the Hispanic Society. I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you say a word. I didn't hear Vinny Valalong. Vinny in Florida. We'll go do drinks, bro. We'll put our Hawaiian shirts on. And because what they're being told from everybody, needs a department. People are making mistakes and getting terminated. Again, this isn't about race. This is about a lack of leadership. This is an internal brewing thing that's happening, and they're trying to take back the power of the police commissioner. That is it. That's all it is.
Yeah, so just to go back to those overtime hours, this cop she's actually a detective, and I wonder if Scott Monroe is actually going to fight for her, Yeah. So in 2024, she made 425. We're going to round it up. 425 hours of overtime. In 2023, she only had 279 hours of overtime. And if you want to go back one more year, 2022, she made 88 hours of overtime. So
what do the 400 hours equate to? How much money?
That's a lot of math right now, John.
Yeah, it's 39,000 and change worth of overtime. $39,689 dollars worth of overtime.
So 425 hours is only 39,000. I think we might have to check that again. But listen, anyway, you know what? That solidifies the point, though. Honestly, did she do anything wrong? And honestly, the answer is no. Is it? You could argue. Is it morally right? Is it right that she got it and her brothers and sisters wouldn't? But it was authorized. He gave her the ability to do it. So technically, did she do anything wrong? No. Now we could question why she got that amenity. Did she get that amenity because she has something to offer Scott Henderson? Or is she giving something to Scott Henderson? That's a different question. But the bottom line is he did give it to her. He authorized it. So did she do anything wrong? Now, if there's some reason, if there's a quid pro quo, that's something different. Now, I wouldn't be surprised. But why did he give it to her? And that's where I have the problem. Where is the level playing field? Is some cop in Sector out and pushing a car in the 4-6 precinct? Is he getting that same amenity? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Especially not with this administration. And you're right, John. Spot on. Where's Patrick Gordon to talk about the little people? Where's the Hispanic Society to talk about the little people on the job? The Hispanics that have gotten disciplined. The blacks that have gotten disciplined for minor infractions, for being late, for not greeting someone at the precinct, for forgetting your body-worn camera. They don't care because they can't do anything for them. They don't care. They only care about the people at the upper echelon that can do something for them. That's all they care about because it's about greed.
Yeah. I mean, did she do anything wrong? I mean, she got the permission from the borough CO. So I'm gonna say, yeah. Was it right? No, it wasn't right. But did she do anything wrong technically? No. Even with the overtime, did she do anything wrong technically? No, she didn't. She didn't. I mean, and again, like I'm sitting here and I'm saying, do I think she's totally innocent in it? No, because I think it's wrong. But I wouldn't do it. I mean, even if somebody was kind enough to look out for me while my parent was dying, I wouldn't even put them in that situation. But again, we don't know what those conversations were, and she's politically connected, and so like we see, it's politics over everything with this administration. But I'll tell you, the fact that they are actually trying this campaign makes me think that Jessica Tisch is pushing back a little and is trying. It kind of raises her up in my eyes a little bit. That it makes her. But like I said, I think that she's not going far enough. I just don't think she has a lot of strong people around her. I think she has a lot of people around her that are giving her bad advice on a lot of issues. But the fact that they're looking to get rid of her and unseat her, she gets a notch up, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sleepy Joe may have to take the hospital post today.
I think it's kind of funny. Normally, I don't address the trolls, but I think it's kind of funny. Leroy Jenkins here keeps saying that this platform is becoming hypocritical. But you know what that says to me? That says to me clearly that you're okay with corruption at the top of the upper echelon if they look like you, and that you're not listening to what's going on here, and that silence is complicity. That's where I have a problem here. Hypocrisy? Clearly, you're not listening. I'm glad you're a fan. That's great, but you're not listening and you're not paying attention, nor do you care.
Yeah, and it's okay if you're victimized. At least be consistent with your arguments, Leroy. You okay? Because again, as we said, these chiefs victimized black cops too. Okay, so at least be consistent with your argument. Yeah. Oh,
I think we always remain pretty consistent with our arguments, right? We defended the inspector that was doing the overrides for the psych, right? We said that he was being told to do it. It's not on him totally. He was just doing his job. We defended Paul Saraceno, even though we said he's not innocent, right? We said he wasn't alone in it. We're defending this girl. I don't know what we're being hypocritical about. I mean, I think we're really just giving our opinion and our facts. I think our opinion has remained consistent from topic to topic to topic to topic, unlike Eric Adams, unlike Kaz Daughtry, unlike John Shell. I mean, I think we've been pretty consistent on all of it. But I see, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes me think that she really is trying, because this whole thing. I mean, look, Shell is a Kaz loyalist. We know that, right? He's gonna play both sides of the coin with Jessica Tisch. Look at this woman's face. Look at her on the far right corner. Look at her face with all this. But look at this. Watch. She's sick of these people. You could tell. Watch this. This is not something that's not happening behind the scenes. You could tell she's sick of it. You could tell Rebecca Weiner, Kaz is the laughing stock of the NYPD, and so is John Shell. They're only there because of the mayor, and now they're trying to get rid of these people who are actually know what they're doing.
Was there proposed legislation in Congress on the drones?
I'm sorry?
Has legislation ever been proposed?
Yeah, Rebecca's got it. We work on the legislation.
So yes, for a number.
You saw the face of that girl, right? Look at her. She's like, oh my God, he just talked to Kaz, and look at Kaz's face there. I mean, the video is grainy, but like, there's a lot of internal strife, and it's been going on a while. It's been going on a while since day one.
Yeah. And so what's funny about all of this is that we talked about how like how like how they're trying to cover up their misdeeds, their past misdeeds, by digging a deeper hole for themselves. And you look here, what's going on merely supports Donlan's claims, but also like the overtime situation with Henderson, that supports Ebb's claims that there are other people who got this overtime and nothing's happening to them. So my thing is, are they going to if they're going after, certainly in that case, if they're going after that detective for the overtime, then she has a case against them because she was authorized by Henderson and he's been allowed to walk out the door. And if they let her go without a punishment, then Epps' case, Epps has got something on him. So it's like they put themselves in quite a boondoggle right now, and so the more they keep going on, it's the lack of transparency and structure in this job is just creating more problems for themselves, so
I got someone doing some digging for me. So apparently she made $53,358 in overtime. Let's see. Let me see if that's right. Let's see if that's right. But either way, like,
whatever.
Doesn't matter.
44,053, $400. It's a lot. It's a lot of overtime.
Right, and that's the bottom line. It doesn't even matter at this point, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say they're all complicit, right? Because here's the real question. So I'm getting some good sources telling me that a chief doesn't have the authority to do that. Obviously, he did in this administration, but that he really doesn't have the authority, which to me it shows how many people on this job are compromised and how many people are complicit. How many people knew that she was home getting paid 7 months after the unfortunate passing of her mother, but also getting overtime? How many wheels were in motion? I'm sure this wasn't just isolated, and I'm sure listen. Let's be honest. Cops talk, people love drama. People would definitely talk about something like that. Wow, look at this girl, right? People always love to reflect their misery on others. Wow, look at this girl. She gets to be home. I'm sure everybody knew. And the fact that no one ever stepped up and said, hey, we have to do something about this. No other chief. Where is Kinsella? Like I said, we're spending all this money. And clearly it's going to hurt morale because there are plenty of people on the job, unfortunately, that have sick family members that don't get the same amenities. But unfortunately, there is a legitimate problem with the NYPD, and people have to agree with me. If anyone on the chat here, if you were active or you retired the NYPD, tell me if I'm wrong. There is definitely 3 tiers in the police department. That tier 1 is those chiefs that have the ultimate power, right? You have your tier 2, anyone tied by nepotism, and tier 3 is your general population. And that's why I say the Internal Affairs Bureau, I've renamed them. They're no longer the Internal Affairs because they only attack general population. They're now the Selective Affairs Bureau because they selectively decide who they're going to punish and who they're going to investigate and how they're going to operate. That goes for these inspections units also. I mean, there has to be metrics, measures, comparisons, and standards. If we're going to transfer people, transfer them because they made a mistake and forgot their body-worn cameras. A mistake, an administrative error. If they're going to be transferred, then what type of discipline should we impose on a chief that gave someone more than $200,000 overtime for having relations in his office? What type of discipline should we give? But apparently nothing. But yet we're dropping the hammer on people that forgot their body-worn cameras. We dropped the hammer on people that didn't give a proper greeting in a precinct. Where is the level playing field? And not one chief has stood up yet and said, this is absolutely ridiculous. They say in the afterlife, Rodney Harrison, if anyone gets a chance to check it out, he was on Mike Cologne's podcast called in New Haven called Mic'd Up. Check it out. Rodney Harrison was in IEB when Daniel Pantaleo was terminated from the NYPD. And Rodney Harrison talks in an interview how Daniel Pantaleo got a bum rap, but he never stood up for him. He let him get terminated. And I got attacked for it. I put it out on Instagram and social media, on X, and I got attacked for it saying, oh, Rodney Harrison was so great. What do you want him to do? He would have destroyed his career. Yeah, you might destroy your career. You're right. But Daniel Pantaleo, his life got destroyed. And the same thing that happening for numerous cops who don't speak out. By the way, Mic'd Up is on here right now. I just said thanks for the shout. Yeah, check him out, Mike Cologne. Awesome podcast. Does a great job memorializing the careers of law enforcement. Now, Rodney Harrison, super intelligent. He was a good cop. He had a good career. But that's a problem. He never stood up for Daniel Pantaleo. To me, that's cowardice. Yes, it would have destroyed his career. But Daniel Pantaleo's life was altered forever. He had to live in isolation. His family was under extreme threat. You have a duty as a leader to stand up for your people.
The whole thing is an absolute joke, dude. And then, the other thing that they're not talking about is Faison brought people into the aviation unit, Winston Faison, to go back to that. And they weren't pilots and they had no training. And so Pat Gordon comes out and he says, oh, he was attempting to diversify the unit. So you're telling me that the CEO of the aviation unit wasn't looking for skilled, qualified pilots or airplane mechanics or helicopter pilots or helicopter mechanics. What you're telling me is he was looking at the color of someone's skin and hiring them based upon that, which is illegal under federal law. That's what you told me. That's what you told the world, Pat. That's what you told us. And so the main problem with all this is the DEI monster. It's the DEI monster that no one said a word about, honestly. And you consistently say, oh, every chief's compromised. Yeah, to a point. I agree. The entire job's compromised to a point. Everyone's compromised in a different way. When it comes to DEI, the entire NYPD is compromised. All in, tooth and nail. Everybody jumped in head first. Never looked at the law, and it's an embarrassment. It's a total utter embarrassment. We're the number one law enforcement agency in the country. We have the most diverse police department in the world, and yet we're telling our guys that you're inherently racist and inherently biased against people. It's like, what are you talking about? Who is? Where were we in the Midwest? Like, what are we talking about? And everyone's been compromised by this monster and no one's saying anything. Like, the media brushes it off. We have a department in the NYPD, diversity, equity, inclusion, that tells you that their goal is to engage in race-based hiring, race-based transfers, race-based promotions, and no one says anything about it. Nobody says anything about it. So, and then when you go to the COVID thing, I got a call the other day. I don't know who it was I spoke to, but I got a call the other day. They were doing some type of paper or something. And I honestly don't know. I still question who it even was, but they asked me, oh, like, what was your take on COVID during as a cop, like as a supervisor in the NYPD? What was your take? I was like, what was my take? My take was that as a lieutenant who understood equal opportunity law, who knows federal law, who understands the Constitution of the United States of America, I understood that the number one law enforcement agency in the country was telling me to disregard all the law, disregard our own policy, and pretend like anything they were saying was legal. And then because I raised questions about it and I raised the points that it was illegal and it did violate EEO law and it did violate New York State human rights law, I was painted as I was wearing a tinfoil hat. I was thrown out of the department for upholding my integrity. I was thrown out of the department because I said exactly what the law was. Same thing with DEI. Same thing that's happening here with all the corruption. Everybody's compromised. Everybody. All of you. It's certain extents, yeah. But everyone deep-throated DEI over a decade ago, and no one said a word about it. You let them tell you you're so racist. You let them tell you that the job is racist. You let them tell you that you're privileged because of the color of your skin. It's a joke. It's a complete joke. You know, the whole thing needs to be revamped. And now here it is coming to bite you all in the ass. You went to Columbia, you went to Harvard, you went to all this. You sit up with your hoity-toity. You think you're better than everybody. Talking about you, Tish. I'm talking about you, Rebecca. I'm talking about the rest of you I have a law degree. I should make more than the cops. And then you were all scared shit in 2020 during the riots, and you were happy to work around a bunch of knuckle draggers then, right? You know, so absolute joke, you know. Absolute joke.
Yeah, and you let DEI be used now as a cover for cronyism, incompetence, and corruption. You know, so you know, it's kind of absurd that we're here. You know, and that things have fallen so far that now you're getting like Patrick Gordon openly alluding to the PC being racist, and that there's not diversity at the top, even though the mayor and the deputy mayor for public safety, who both exercise an extreme amount of influence over the department, and who arguably are the real PCs of the department, right? They're both black, right? And you look at the past 4 years, who've been in charge? It's been like you've had a black PC, you've had a Hispanic PC, and the upper echelon have been black. So it's kind of absurd that we're at this point where Patrick Gordon wants to use DEI now again as a cover for cronyism and incompetency and corruption, and it's so blatantly in your face now, right? But you kind of wonder. I would love to be a fly on the wall right now in 1PP just to hear what's going on, because to me it sounds like an episode of Game of Thrones up there now. You know? It's literally we've made this meme before that it was Game of Thrones, but now it's literally Game of Thrones with the infighting and the self-interest going on.
You know, it's just it really is at this point interesting to me that Patrick Gordon and these reverends are trying to paint this picture of racism and discrimination. To me, this proves it's about power and accessibility and having the keys to all the amenities at the upper echelon, because ultimately, why do you care? Why do you care what the chiefs look like? Why does it matter? Why would you care if it's a woman? Why would you care if it's a black guy? Why would you care if it's a white guy? Why are you putting your emphasis and focusing on what color they are and what they look like? Why are you not saying, you know what? We need a diversity of leadership in quality, in education, in experience. We need a diversity in leadership. But no, what you were saying exactly, it's important to you of what they look like. Is that not racist? Is that not discriminatory? By being so concerned on what they look like? It doesn't matter to you if they're corrupt. It doesn't matter to you if they're inept or they're completely failing. It doesn't matter to you that they're using women and when they come back and fire away that they've been used, and they make sexual allegations, then you then smear them. That doesn't matter to you. But it matters what they look like. That's what's so important. Is that racist itself? John, what are your thoughts? I think it's absolutely disgusting, and it's just complete. That's the hypocrisy.
But that's my thing. Is like Gordon's allowed to be a racist. He's allowed to be openly racist. He's allowed to openly say and advocate for race-based hires, race-based transfers, race-based promotions, and a total different set of rules, total different set of disciplinary process. You know, I mean, again, if we're holding the same standards in the NYPD, those guys got transferred for missing a piece of equipment that's really not even vital to them doing their job. The Manhattan's camered up everywhere. You don't need your body camera. You're right. For that one day, or you go get it and you're late to the detail, and we'll dock you for the time you should have been here. I don't know. Whatever you did, it was way excessive. But if we're holding by that standard, then all these guys that we just talked about, they should be doing 20 years in jail. They should have got perp walked out. They should have been stripped of their pensions. They should have, if we're holding them by that standard, but that's the thing. There is no standard of discipline. There's no standard of investigation. The selective unit is a selective agency or whatever. It's a good name because they selectively choose what they're going to investigate, including the allegation that we made, right? I foiled for the case. Supposedly they closed the case. So I foiled for the case, when we'll get a response? By December 28th. So by December 28th, we'll get a response to the case. So after the mayor election, convenient. After the 18 months has elapsed for any criminal charges. Got it. Totally. I got it. Thank you. I understand. Great job. You're selective at Internal Affairs Bureau. And like the same thing, like when you talk about the chiefs, you could say the same thing about IAB. Is everybody in IAB compromised? Yeah. To a level, to a point. You know what I mean? Does it mean that there's not good guys that are in internal affairs? No, it doesn't mean that at all. There's people that actually care, but at some level, they're compromised. More, the higher up you are or the different cases you're involved, you're more compromised. You're more level.
That's my point.
But I'll tell you, again, I've been saying from when Tom Donnellan got involved and then when Jessica Tisch did, the only thing that should have happened is you should have walked in the room. Get me all of the 3 stars right now. I want everyone 2-star. I want everyone that's a deputy inspector and above to submit me their resume and be prepared for an interview. I would walk in, get me all the 3 stars right now. You're all no longer needed. Thank you for your service. You're demoted back to the rank of captain. That's what should have happened on day one. Day one. And if I find out any criminality, we're locking you up, by the way. So if you want to tell us anything now, tell us it now. Marlon, your mic.
Yeah, QC Beast made a point earlier. He said, do these black executives realize how hard they're making it for the next generation of black NYPD officers? That's a good point, QC. And that's the problem with DEI because, people are going to look at you like, oh, is this guy here for DEI? And they're going to look, unfortunately, it's human nature, right? So people are going to look at you like, oh, is this guy a product of that kind of cronyism when he gets elevated to the position of chief or whatever leadership role he has now in the job? And that's why organizations like the Guardians and like the Hispanic Society, above all, including everyone else, should be advocating for a meritocracy and should be as much against all the cronyism and corruption and incompetency as we are, because it just doesn't serve the organization well, for a long-term perspective, and it doesn't serve those individual officers, who may look like that. It doesn't serve them either. Because again, unfortunately, it's human nature. Okay, so just to answer that, what QCB said. So the one thing I am happy though about in all this is that we're now seeing this all. It's now becoming so blatantly obvious that a lot of the things people criticized us before, and they didn't believe this. Now it's becoming so obvious that the elephant is so big in the room that I think it's going to be hard for them to ignore it and for them to claim that we're wrong or that none of this is happening now. It's so obvious now that I think it's harder for them to hide it, and I'm hoping that maybe this leads to a solution.
A lot of the cops, and I understand it, they don't want to believe that the NYPD is impervious to corruption, right? They want to believe that it's whole, especially those that have integrity, because they find it as a reflection of themselves. And I remember when John and I both received attacks towards our children from All Cops Are Woke, which we know now is the prime suspect is Sean Mohabir from the NYPD, was an active member of the service. And I got numerous texts from all different ranks on the job. No way is that a member of the service. And sure enough, it is. And at some point, when are people going to say, yes, this is happening? Because a lot of people text me, no way is this happening. No way would John Shell act like a jackass on social media. Well, you saw it. No way would Kaz Daughtry spend his entire day doing content creation. You see it. No way would Ed Caban's brother have a security detail. Yeah, no way would Ed Caban possibly be involved, well, his brother be involved in a racketeering scheme. No way would some woman get over $200,000 in overtime in a quid pro quo scheme. No way would some woman stay home for over a year. At what, no way would we be abusing Craylo cards. At what point do you say, wait a minute, hold on, this is happening. This is my department. And that's why I say the upper echelon is compromised. And John, you're right. Everyone is compromised at some level. And I say every active chief is compromised. There are different levels to how they're compromised. But at some point, you have to say, wait a minute. You've seen enough appearance of impropriety. We see it from a distance. I'm in Alaska. John, you're in Florida. And we see it from far. Marlon's not working. He's off the job, and he sees it too. We all see it on the Finance Unfiltered. How do they not see it? And yes, the argument is there. You could destroy your career by speaking out. But if you have over 20 years and you have a good pension, at some point you have to speak out. Because if no one speaks out, things will never change. And we're just going to operate on this same plane. Now, when we talk about discrimination, DEI is wrong on any level. But I will say this. And it's said towards potential black leadership. There's probably some great people within the NYPD that are black that should rise through the ranks. But unfortunately right now, until Eric Adams is out of office, you have to question at this point if someone is moving up and they're black. The question has to be, what is their connection to Eric Adams? Is there a connection to Eric Adams? Is there a connection to Patrick Gordon? These are questions that we have to ask. It's unfortunate. Now, when Eric Adams is out of office, those questions shouldn't be posed. And that's where racism comes into play. You can't say, well, we had numerous corruption, appearance of impropriety surrounding these black chiefs. So going forward, that target is going to be on someone that maybe a suitable chief for the NYPD who's black, because that would be discriminatory in itself. That would be completely racist. So this is a problem on all levels. Why? And that's go back to what I'm saying. Why are we concerned with what they look like? Why do we even care? We should be concerned with what is their ability, what is their qualifications, what is their resume. And we see right now, it's unfortunate, but these black chiefs that have been retiring and resigning because of scandal, they're not under scrutiny, and the appearance of impropriety is not there because they're black. They happen to be black, and they're connected to Eric Adams. That's the problem. That's the common denominator.
The thing is this, right? Like this whole racist, race-based ideology has came into the department under a white mayor, Bill de Blasio, and was brought forth by white men. Dermot Shea, Jimmy O'Neill, like they're the ones that brought it to the forefront. Bill Bratton, they're the ones that brought it to the forefront of the NYPD. And then Eric Adams, who was racialized his entire career, right? He made his name off of saying that the NYPD is systemically corrupt and they target black and brown neighborhoods. And now that he's at the seat, we see that he's a complete fraud, a complete one-trick pony, because everything he complained about, he's doing multiplying, right? He multiplied bad stops, bad 250s, all this shit, right? So like you see he's a complete fraud, but he racialized the hiring and the transfer process in the NYPD. I mean, he said my police commissioner is going to be a female, right? My police. So there are no men that you would consider. You would only consider a female. Female comes into place. He removes all power from her. He has his cronies undermine everything. She runs out the door, right? She runs out the door. Corruption takes over in the NYPD. Then he's like, I'm going to have the first Latino police commissioner. So he puts Ed Caban, completely unqualified, horrible speaker, horrible presenter, horrible background, right? Like probably one of the worst picks ever for the police commissioner. Probably the worst pick for the police commissioner you could have made. Like last guy you would have picked. You'd be like, yeah, definitely not that guy. You know what I mean? Definitely not that guy. So he picks him, and then he gets up on the stage that day, and you see Shell in the background. You see the chief of detectives who's now suing former chief of detective Jimmy, whatever his name is.
Chief Essig.
Chief Essig, yeah, James Essig. You see him back there. There are two white guys are sitting there. They look like two unicorns in the mix. And Eric Adams is sitting there saying, the NYPD has a great crime the NYPD has a great crime fighting profile, but the NYPD has an image problem. When you look up at the ranks, you don't see the diversity. You don't see the youthfulness. And he's basically saying, I'm getting rid of all these old white guys that you're seeing at the top. Right. And then, when it goes out and I start doing research into then Deputy Commissioner of Equity Inclusion, Tanya Meisenholder, you hear her utter those same words. Right. You hear her on the podcast agreeing that, yeah, the NYPD, when you look up top, even though we're the most diverse department in the world, when you look up top, it's too old, it's too male, too pale, too stale. Right. And so that whole ideology has been there, and it's perfectly acceptable for a member of an NYPD fraternal, Pat Gordon, Joey Ayala. I really don't hear the race-based things, but if he did, it would be perfectly fine. He could say whatever he wants. But if the kid that's in the Columbia Association, whoever's in charge of the Emerald, any of the organizations that they consider white would say it, they'd be removed from the New York City Police Department. They'd be terminated. They'd be found guilty of hate speech. The things that Pat Gordon are saying, and the fact that it just gets brushed over, that's what really bothers me. That's what bothers me more than anything. It's like, wait a minute, time out. If I'm the Columbia Association president, and I start saying, no, I want Italian chiefs, I want O's, I want more O's in the name, because remember what he said, there's too many O's getting promoted. I want more O's, and by the way, Pat, I know you're a mush mouth like Eric Adams. It's vowels. That's what they call Italians. It's vowels. It's not O's. Every Italian guy's name doesn't end in an O. It ends in a vowel, right? So they call them vowels, you idiot. You couldn't even say that right. But like, if I was to start saying that, what would happen to me? All of those fraternals would now start calling me a racist. The police commission would call me into their office, and I'd be done. I'd be asked to relieve the New York City Police Department. And that's not happening here. And not only is that not happening, she's allowing a coup to happen underneath her. They're weaponizing these organizations. They're using the chief of patrol. They're using all these people. And Hood May is like saying, oh, John Shell's on y'all hands. No, John Shell's not on anybody's hands. Anybody that we're talking about, we wish no harm to anybody. I wish no self-torment to any of them. The facts are the facts. These people have all harmed thousands of people across New York City and in the New York City Police Department. I'm just giving my opinion. Eric's giving his opinion. Marlon's giving his opinion. They're very well entitled. They know how to reach out, www.thefinestunfiltered.com. We will put you on here. We will not talk over you. We will let you express your ideas civilly in an open debate. So nothing's on our hands. I know that these are highly tormented people and they have trouble sleeping at night except for with a belly of booze. But that's not my problem. It's not my problem. Nobody cared about the torment that Eric goes through, that I go through, that Sal goes through, that Marlon goes through. Nobody cares about that, and I don't put that on them. It's not on them. It was a whole system. I don't blame them personally for all the ills of my life, and no one here blames them for the ills of their life. So, the fact of the matter is we're talking facts. We're not picking on nobody. We're not beating nobody up. We're not slandering nobody. We're talking about what's out there in the media and what the standards used to be in the NYPD and what we see being done arbitrarily to some, and to others it's completely different. So and anyone that doesn't like it, too bad. The unfollow button's there, the unclick button. Nobody tells anybody to watch this podcast. Nobody's forced to watch it. Nobody's forced to look at my social media, Eric's social media. We're just giving our opinions, and we welcome yours, Leroy, even though you're saying we're not answering a question, which I don't know what it is, but we're not going to let the chat also take us off topic either. So understand that. If you have a question, email it to us. We'll address it at some point.
Marlon, I just want to jump in for a second, if you don't mind. I just want to say, absolutely, I don't wish any personal harm on anyone. And if we did, believe me, if we wished personal harm, I would have been on a plane a long time ago when they threatened our kids, because I know where they are. I can find them. They can't find me. They don't know. Apparently they can find John. Travis Rutherford found him. But We know exactly
I'm
where they
not
are.
hard
If
to
we wanna
find.
put-
Yeah, I don't need, and I don't walk around the city of New York with a security detail either. Like,
Exactly. But if we wanted personal harm, it would have been a lot easier for us to find them. I could care less. And you know what? Do they have personal demons? Do I think right now that it's eating them up personally and causing them harm? Yes. But that is something they're going to have to deal with on their own. They created their own demons. I don't wish any personal harm. Do I wish that they're no longer with the police department? Do I wish for a better version of the NYPD? Yes. Yes. I do wish that they're no longer with the police department because they've damaged and put a stain on what was once the GOAT of policing. For personal harm, I don't care. I don't even care to give that much effort because they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it at all. But I do want and I desire a better version of this NYPD because what we see right now is a disgrace led by bums. When you have the highest ranking member of the most powerful police department in the entire world acting like a jackass on social media, if that bothers him, and that's bothered his psyche, well, shame on him. He shouldn't be doing it. Imagine Chief Esposito, may he rest in peace. Could you imagine him? The amount of respect that we had for that type of chief. If you're not NYPD, another law enforcement agency, look him up. Chief Esposito. He was a cop's cop, a true leader. People respected him. Could you imagine him on social media acting like a jackass? Not at all, because he was a good representative and a good leader, and he was a good example of what was once the go-to policing.
Yeah. The problem is that NYPD's become like a dog-eat-dog world of like self-interest, and everybody is trying to protect their self-interest and their little fiefdom, and nobody cares until it's their problem, I mean, the fact that again that Patrick Gordon could openly like defend what happened at aviation, and use it as a rallying cry for diversity, and say that his lack of diversity is absurd, absolutely absurd, And I'd also like to add that Faizan now was also using department resources and using taxpayer resources so that he himself could become an instructor. So if you, the ordinary cop, decides to use city resources to gain some sort of a instructor license on duty, then would the job have a problem with that? Of course it would. Of course it would. So how could anyone defend this guy doing that? And by the way, giving overtime to cops just to help him, become an instructor, and also monopolizing the training time on the helicopter. Okay, when the actual pilots who go out there every day need that training time. Okay, so it's completely absurd that this guy could do this and shamelessly do this. Okay, and nobody called him out on it. Yeah, and it's the NYPD. I've said it before that ever since the scamdemic, the NYPD has like, I don't know if the psyche of the job in general has been so damaged or what, but it's like everybody's out to protect their little kingdom and nobody cares until it's their problem. We talk to guys who even after what's happened, they still say, okay, Eric Adams is the best choice for New York City. Yeah. Which I just don't understand. How badly damaged are people's psyche now to say that Eric Adams is the best choice? John mentioned how Eric Adams racialized the department, and it's true. It's true. And even now, Eric Adams remains silent because it's inconvenient, right, to say anything about this, because it's inconvenient for the re-election campaign of Eric Adams 2.0, who again is campaigning against Eric Adams 1.0. So it's crazy that guys, even after going through all of this and seeing all of this going on right now, are going to say that Eric Adams is still the best choice. It's mind-boggling to me.
I think honestly, this is just. Oh, by the way, Simple E, thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's a great store, by the way. I just think it's disgusting. Honestly, this is like it's despicable that we're at this point. I had put out a tweet on X, just joking around, but it's true. Like the NYPD has a stat for everything. You got force stat, narco stat, com stat, dom stat. There is a stat for everything, and right now, unfortunately, it's at the point where we have to have scandal stat because there's a scandal after scandal after scandal. When are people going to get fed up at every level in the NYPD and say, this is ridiculous? It must be embarrassing right now to wear that uniform in the street and actually put more of a target on your back. How much more vulnerable are our police officers in the street right now? And we see it. The rate of assaults on police officers is alarming, the new phenomenon. And this doesn't help. This just makes it even worse for the rookie on the street, for the boots on the ground, because of this disgusting behavior by the upper echelon. Disgusting. And Eric Adams is allowing it. Not only is he allowing it, he encourages it. If you're silent, you're complicit. If you don't say a word, you're just as guilty as everyone else. Didn't we learn that in the NYPD? I learned that in the Marine Corps. You know what? I learned that in my family. I learned that from my father growing up. If you're silent, you're a coward. You got to speak up when you see something wrong. My father told me as a kid, if you see someone getting bullied and you just sit there and you don't do nothing, you're a coward. You're supposed to help people. You're supposed to be a protector and stand up for other people. These are values you learn, not just in the police department, but growing up and being a good man or a good woman.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like, again, just to end on this one point, and then let's just show the content creator. There's a couple of videos I didn't get a chance to watch yet. I think we should watch it live here. See what kind of police commissioner you're going to have in a Kaz Daughtry, if in fact this coup takes effect. Just to wrap it up here, I just think it's an absolute disgrace. I'm watching people that should have walked out of the department and hung their head in shame, sitting there and feeling no way about it other than, oh, I got screwed. I didn't do anything wrong. Again, CO of the aviation unit, he brings people in there. He's underqualified for the position. He brings people in there that aren't pilots. They're using overtime codes that are directly for pilots. No one's saying a word about that. Damages a helicopter. Yeah, it's fine. And I heard numerous things happened other than this one incident. Tried to cover up the fact, tried to not, interfere in a federal investigation. And then instead of just going out and being like, I messed up, I'm getting out of here, you want to weaponize this and use this as some type of like divisive tactic. When honestly, the only reason that you were put in that position is because of the color of your skin. So it's a complete joke to me. And then at the same time, he had the not-for-profit that we didn't even talk about, and that really wasn't in the news, kind of brushed over in the news. And a lot of people are alleging that the funds that he made directly from the police department, he used to purchase a plane for that not-for-profit. And then, again, it's a huge conflict of interest. It's huge. And that's what we're seeing people do. They're building themselves off of their job. They're using the NYPD to build themselves. Like Kaz Daughtry's using the NYPD in this content to build himself as a content creator or a voice out there in the New York City, City sphere and social media, maybe potentially for a political run down the road. I don't know. But he was using those monetized accounts, using taxpayers' fund, and try to keep them for himself. And it was only because of this show that he wasn't allowed to do it, because the idiot went and tried to block us, claiming it wasn't a public account, right? And like that's the only reason that he wasn't able to do that. And so it's the same thing when you're building your business with your on-duty work. There's a problem there. There's a conflict there. And everyone's just brushing every scandal off. And again, it's just coming down to racialized divisionary tactics. And again, when you look at what's happening inside of the New York City Police Department, I consistently hear Jessica Tisch, Eric Adams, they want to hire more cops. When I'm looking at what's happening, I'm saying they want to do the exact opposite. They're continuing down on the path that Eric Adams promised to do in 2021, which is lower the headcount. John Schell makes it a point to say 34,000 plus members of the NYPD every time he goes on the media. Jessica Tisch also does that. Eric Adams also does that. They are lying. There is not 34,000 plus members, uniform members of the NYPD. It's a lot. Maybe some of them that are on terminal leave or that haven't been finalized yet. Maybe if you keep those numbers in, and even then, I don't think it's that. So I don't know where they're coming up with that number. But to me, everything that I'm watching, the overreaching discipline, all of that stuff, it appears to me they are still bringing down the numbers of the NYPD intentionally. You are not transferring guys with 20 years on out of details back to patrol for minor infractions unless you're trying to get them to retire. And that's exactly what they did, to nobody's shock. I was like, oh, so you want these guys to retire that all their guys love and their units actually operating, even though with all of the pressure that's coming on them from up top. So to me, it's intentional. What's being done is intentional. They're intentionally trying to bring down the numbers of the NYPD, and particularly with Tier 2.
I think. Listen, you're spot on. There's no doubt about it. There's intentional push to get these people out, especially they're extremely vulnerable with job at that point. If you're going to have extreme discipline, they're going to be out the door. There's no doubt about it, brother. I agree with you. Spot on. And anyone that says it's 34,000 plus is out of their mind. That is an outright lie. I will put my last dollar on it. I would put my last dollar that there's less than 30,000. I will put my last dollar right now.
Yeah, there's a phrase that's been going around called quiet quitting, and I've heard there's one guy I watch who goes around Florida. He lives around Miami, so he walks around the neighborhood. He's a real estate guy, so he walks around. He talks about real estate and finance and the economy, right? So I heard him mention about quiet quitting in a context I never thought about, and he mentioned it in the context of jobs making the environment so making the quality of job life so terrible that guys voluntarily leave. They voluntarily walk out the door because they've had it, and it's a way of what's the word I'm looking at? It's a way of kind of lowering your staff, downsizing without going through the legal restraints and the legal processes. And I agree with you, John. I think that's one of the things that is going on now. And I think to a certain extent, it's been going on for years. Yes, Chronicles of the Collapse, spot on. It's Michael Bordenera, I think his name. I'm not sure you got the last name right, but I think it's that I think we're talking about the same guy. But yeah, he talked about how companies are making things miserable for workers in hopes of them leaving and lowering their payroll costs. And I think that's exactly what's been going on in the NYPD. And I think that process has accelerated ever since the scamdemic.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's exactly what the NYPD is happening right now. That's exactly what it is. Let's make this job as miserable as possible. I mean, just put yourself in that situation, right? You're told you have to report from home. You're told that you can't go to these details and get a car. So you're not going to your locker. We talked about that before. You're completely out of whack, and you forget a piece of equipment. And now you're getting dressed, and you're like, oh, crap. It's 2.5 hours before you got to be at that detail. You're getting dressed, and you're like, oh, man. I can't go to my command and get there. I'll never make it. I don't have enough time. I need 4 hours to do that, right? And so you're like, if I show up late, I'm getting a CD and I'm getting transferred, right? And so now what do? You're in your head, all right, let me just show up without my body camera. Maybe I won't be late at least. I'll just get a CD for that. No, you still get transferred. And the Professional Standards Bureau, when you look at it, they're still hammering guys, destroying them for nonsense. And it's exactly what's happening. They're intentionally making the job unbearable, completely unbearable. And that's why the recruitment numbers are so low, is right. You lose the experienced guys. So they're not telling their nephews, the kids that live around them. They're not telling anybody to take the job. They're telling everybody, don't take this job. Do not become a cop. Do something else. Take the MTA job. Take the Port Authority job if you want to be a cop. Take the Suffolk. Take the Nassau. Go to Florida. Do not become a cop in the NYPD, right? So you lose your number one source of recruitment right there, right? And then when throughout all of those people that are shitting all over the job, telling people not to become a job. So not only are they not helping you recruit, they're actually working against you because they're telling everybody out there in that sphere, millions and millions of people, don't become an NYPD officer. It's miserable. It's miserable. When people disregard that and they're like, well, I want to be an NYPD cop. And they go on there and then they're like, oh my God, this job is so miserable. And they leave. And so now you even lose those young guys. So that's what's happening in the NYPD is you can't retain the young guys. You can't recruit, and you're losing experience at a ginormous rate. And it's honestly, it's the system that's being built up. So while they're sitting there and saying they want more cops, I'm saying, no, they don't. No, they don't. You're saying one thing. You're doing the Eric Adams trick. You're saying the one thing, but you're doing something else. You're saying you support cops, but every piece of legislation that you supported and support and every thing that you put into place actually tells me a different story, and so, but that's the problem. What's happening not only in the NYPD, but in all big blue cities in law enforcement. And that's why there is a mass exit. And I do think it's an exodus that's not organic. I don't think there's any outside factors. I don't think bail reform, this, that, the other thing, the leftist, the AOC, I don't think it has anything to do with any of that. There's no outside forces that are creating this. This is an internal process that is being done and pushed down to have guys like us, way too young, leave the NYPD, be terminated from the NYPD, or go move somewhere else.
Exactly. That's why we always say it's not the external factors, it's the internal pressures of the NYPD that deteriorate mental health. But not only does it deteriorate mental health, but it leads to the attrition problem in the NYPD. And not only that, you're a young guy on the job. You look at these guys with 20 years on the job. You say, wow, look at the pressure that they have. And but to the young guys on the job, that's another reason to look for a viable law enforcement agency somewhere else in the country, somewhere else where you can find a home where they're going to support you, a better environment, a better place to be a cop. And ultimately, listen, I've been saying this for about 3 years right now. They don't care. They don't care what the NYPD numbers are because they're moving to AI and eventually robotics, and they're going to replace the veteran alpha males and alpha females with meek, timid, and docile young police officers that can be easily encouraged, that can be told what to do, that will have less engagement. They're more they're more vulnerable to this criminal society. It's just complete upside down world, but it's not the external factors. The NYPD has always been under scrutiny from external factors, from the DA's office, from leftist politics, from political legislation that is anti-police. It's completely polarizing to the law enforcement profession. But that has never been a factor to hurt morale. Me personally, from my anecdotal experience, I've never met a cop who said, you know what, I just can't take it anymore. I don't like the way the DA's office is, and I'm looking for another law enforcement agency. But anytime I've ever heard a complaint that pushes someone out the door, it's an internal factor. It's an internal pressure of the NYPD. And I'm sure other law enforcement agencies probably mirror the same thing. But that's what's going on.
Yeah. I also think we gotta those of you in the precincts, I think we gotta go back to posting people's arrest record in precincts, because I'm looking at Faison now, and we're seeing the same pattern going on, of these guys with like they have nothing to show for being when they were a cop, And personally, I was never a boss. I was a detective, and but the best bosses I've ever had were the bosses who were active cops. They knew when to protect me, they knew when to let me run wild, and they knew when to, they didn't treat me as a cop, as some idiot cop. They treated me like I was on their level, and and again, they knew when to be a supervisor and when to hang back. and I just think that that plays a part in the quality of leadership we're getting. And like we've seen with Shepard, we've seen with Henderson, we're seeing rather with Faison, we're seeing, I don't know, I'm not sure how much Henderson actually has, but we're seeing with Faison, like I think that reflects on the quality of leadership you're getting. Their effort as a cop reflects upon how they'll be as a boss and as a chief later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say real quick before you go into the video, a lot of people in the chat have been asking about my hat. By the way, I appreciate it. Vet, it's a Bass Pro Shop hat. Love that store, by the way. So, yeah, the hats are pretty cool. I don't know. A lot of people asking about the hat, man. I think it's cool. I paid like $6 for it.
Yeah, those hats are cheap.
I don't care.
Yeah. But I don't care about the cheaper the better. But I'm just saying, like, that not the best quality.
I wear so many, so for me, I don't care. I wear it a couple times and throw it out. Buy no one.
Yeah. All right, so let's hit one Daughtry video and get out of here. I don't know. I haven't watched this, so let's watch it together. I think this is the first one on his feed. But yeah, the dude's a full-time content creator. So this is our Kaz Daughtry moron segment. Let's see how big.
Wait, gotta get my popcorn, John.
Get your popcorn out. Let's see. You got your popcorn?
I was saving this for earlier, but I forgot it, chat. So, Patrick, I didn't hold this for the last 2 hours, okay? It was meant for the beginning segment.
All right, so here we go. Let's watch this masterpiece, this work of art. Here we go. This is coming out. And for all you guys that wonder where your tax money goes, here it is.
We're wrapping it up here in the Bronx. Multiple vehicles towed. We'll have a count later on today. Thank you to FDNY for coming and taking out these illegal propane tanks that were stored inside of the vehicles, as well as the scooters in there with the Lithuanian batteries. This is a Herculean task. It's a combined effort. You got FDNY, you got Department of Sanitation Police, you got the regular Department of Sanitation, Department of Transportation, NYPD, Sheriff's Department. This is a multi-agency approach. This is what we do. We work with our brother and sister agencies, and this is the result. People in the community that are coming up to us and saying, thank you. Please don't do it. Please don't leave. Please make sure you continue to stay on top of this. We got the Honorable Borough President from the Bronx, Vanessa Gibson, is here. Vanessa.
Are you watching in the background the numerous security guys that they have that are chasing people off the block so that they can't stand behind them? Like, I think that's the funnier part of all of this, right? Like, they're trying to present like, oh, yeah, everything's good. But you watch the guy in a suit chase people away. You're watching uniformed cops chase people away. Keep watching the background of this video.
Listen, this is Madam VP. This is amazing. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting the community link team here. Thank you to you and Deputy Mayor Joseph Barlack, who oversees the community link program. But Madam VP, can you please say a couple of words to the Bronx Knights?
Hey Bronx, it's Borough President Vanessa L. Gibson, and I want to thank Deputy Mayor Kaz Daughtry and Deputy Mayor Camille Joseph Barlack and the entire community link team. This is really an interagency effort to make sure that we are collaborating and we are working together for the betterment of our communities here in the Bronx and throughout the city of New York. So when I learned that the team was coming out today in the Bronx and Mount Hope, it is responding to the residents and the homeowners and everyone that lives and works and raises their families here. This is long overdue and very necessary. We are tired of seeing derelict vehicles, abandoned vehicles, and drug dealing happening right in our community. We all deserve better. So thanks to your calls, your relentless calls to 311, to the local precinct, we are finally showing up and we are delivering real results. That is raising your quality of life, making sure that you're safe, that is getting rid of all of these derelict and abandoned vehicles that you call about. And we want to make sure that you understand that we outside. We are outside all over the Bronx because we are no longer going to accept that your 311 calls are not addressed and quality of life issues are not addressed. So thanks to this entire community link team of the NYPD, FDNY, thank you to DOT for giving us the tow trucks. Yes, we are towing trucks, folks. Thank you to the Sheriff's Office and really everyone. This is a collaboration, and it is in doing so that we are making our communities better and our borough stronger.
Thank you so much. That is great. Listen, you heard it here live yourself. You heard it here. The borough president is outside.
Outside.
She's outside with us. Thank you so much. This is just the beginning. We're going block by block, street by street. Promises made, promises kept. That's what this administration is about. Big P, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now let's go to the next block. Let's
Next
go.
block.
Come on,
We
bro. Let's go.
outside.
We outside.
I love me some Kaz videos.
You had to get the last word in.
I love it. I'm entertained. Are you entertained? I'm entertained.
We need to call this segment Kaz Theater, you know?
Oh, it really is, dude.
What happened there, right? Like, okay, so you asked for it, and now we're here doing a video, and the minute we leave, every problem you complained about it comes right back. Like, you know, I seen people, like, he was resharing somebody tweeting at him saying like, "Oh, thank you for cleaning up the hub." And I'm like, really? Clean up the hub? They displaced crime to the outer blocks, and that's it. And they didn't clean shit up. They just said, you can't stand here. You know, all the problems that persist are going to continue to persist. And it's just honestly, it's a waste of tax money. And this is who's vying for the seat of the police commissioner. This is who they're trying to undermine. I mean, the guy's a clown. He's another one-trick pony. Most dangerous place in New York City is between Kaz Daughtry and a video camera. Like, that is it. You know. Anything else before we get out of here?
I just want to say I love how they're all buying into that slogan too. Vanessa Gibbs, we outside too. I love it. They're all buying in. You know what? Eric Adams' administration is just the administration of corruption and slogans. That's all it is. Corruption and slogans.
Yeah, we outside with a huge security detail of uniformed and ununiformed cops. That's not being outside. Sorry, people. Sorry. You know who's outside? Curtis Lee was outside. You guys ain't out. When you're outside with a huge security detail, you ain't outside. You know.
Yeah. That should have said paid for by the friends of Eric Adams, because that's definitely an Eric Adams campaign video masquerading as a informational. But yeah, you know, we talked about it before a while ago that as things get worse, the perception management has to increase. And what's happening? Well, we're seeing these videos from Kaz. We're seeing a bot that loves to comment, and I'm sure it's commented on this video already. But it's marketing, and that has to increase because they're ineffective and incompetent at their actual jobs. So. And did you notice, Chad? Did you notice that Kaz had to give in the last word of that video? No, there was nothing more for him to say, but he had to just throw in the last word, and you know, because he's Kaz.
You know what's funny about that, Marlon? It's actually brilliant, right? I know a lot of people were saying, why would he put that idiot as his deputy mayor, right? Why would he create that position? Because it's a useless position, right? But it's exactly that. He's utilizing Kaz. It works great for Kaz because Kaz gets to promote his self-image. It's content creation, but it's also electioneering at the same time for Eric Adams. So it's actually a brilliant idea. That's exactly what he's doing. Paid for by Eric Adams. I'm with you, brother. That is just more electioneering for Eric Adams. It's exactly what it is.
And it's putting a young face to go up against the brilliant campaign machine of Mamdani and the brilliant marketing campaign of Mamdani.
Yeah, but But the thing is, like, there's zero traction. I mean, if you look at what's happening and how many likes the only people that are liking his stuff, if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to Twitter, or if you go to like Facebook or whatever, the only people you see liking his stuff are a bunch of weak, soft losers in the NYPD looking for something. They're like, "Oh, thank you, Kaz. Thank you." And and you guys know who you are because I see you. You know, I see you. Don't think I don't. I'm not going to call out every little thing I see. But, "Oh, thank you. This is great. Oh, thank you, Chief Shell. Thank you, Kaz Daughtry." You know, it's that's all he has is a bunch of lackey cops. Like, he's getting no traction on it, and they're horribly made. They're horribly done. There was one, I'm not going to go through it. Maybe we'll bring it in on Friday or whatever. But there was another one where at the end, he's like, "Make sure you like, share, and subscribe." It's like, dude, what the?
Wow.
Like, you know, like, it's like, you know, it's like really. But yeah, 100%. It's electioneering. It's completely legal. And, you know, honestly, to compare it to Mamdani's campaign, it's like talking like straight novice to pro. Like that campaign manager is killing it. Those videos, they're killing it. Again, and you know, I mean, and I'll even give us kudos because we don't pay for content creation. We don't have producers and editors and all that stuff. I mean, like the amount of views, we blow them out of the wood. You know, like he's not even a blip. If I look at my analytics on my social medias, Kaz Daughtry's are here, and with the New York City spending millions of dollars, and my accounts are like up here, and I'm not spending zero. You know, like it's you know, so it's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Listen, hey, almost 2 hours and 15 minutes into it. It's Monday morning. Thank you so much to chat, friends and listeners, for being with us. The engagement is awesome. Got a lot of great people on here. Tuesday, of course, we'll be back. Sal Greco. I'll be back, keeping you up to date on politics. Wednesday, we'll be back again. We got a great interview for you, something interesting. I don't want to tell you exactly. You'll see on Wednesday. I think it's pretty interesting. You should be there. And then also, of course, we'll have the executive perspective. And don't forget, Tuesday night, our new show, which is the 10-4 Tavern. So we're stacked right now on the network, show after show content. You know, there may be a personality in there or a show that you like that works for you. If you like all the shows, great. If there's just one show that works for you, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have our friends and listeners, and of course the haters also. Thanks for being a fan. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for supporting the Finest Unfiltered. We appreciate it, and and we support you. We do. You know, our friends and listeners. If there's this is a great support system. You know, I've been saying right now with this podcast, with this network, and this engagement, and our friends and listeners, we've now built an ecosystem, a support system. When retired guys come out of the NYPD or other law enforcement agencies, we now have a support system, a community of like-minded people to support each other. So this really is changing policing because now retired cops have a place to speak out and talk about the atrocities to make it better for the cops that are there that are voiceless.
But Leroy's butthurt says this show is wonderful unless you try and debate them. Then it's not so fun. Stop being butthurt, bro. Nobody cares. Yeah. Send your question and we'll respond to it. You know. Oh, we didn't give a shout out to we didn't give a shout out to Hassan on his birthday. You know, Hassan, happy birthday! You don't look a day older than 50, bro. Congrats. You know, enjoy your day. Eric's frozen solid. There he goes. He's back.
Yeah, guys. 10-4 Tavern tomorrow, 7:05 p.m. The guys have on former homicide lieutenant and Court TV contributor and best-selling author Mike King. So that's tomorrow at 7:05 p.m.
Yep. You guys don't want to wish Hassan a happy birthday? What the hell?
Oh, no. Okay. Happy birthday, Hassan.
It's Hassan's birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Hassan, happy birthday, brother, to Hassan, man. Listen, Hassan is an awesome dude. Happy birthday, brother. Enjoy.
Hassan is usually the first guy in the chats. So happy birthday, brother, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, you know, but use some of that olive oil, bro. You're looking old, dude. You're looking like you're like 50 something. You know, some of that olive oil, Mo.
You gotta put. Listen, you can't just drink it. You gotta put it on the skin. Fresh olive oil. Yeah, listen, shout out everybody. Almost 2 hours and 20 minutes into it. Finest Unfiltered. Thank you, friends. Thank you, listeners. We outside too.
Yeah.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.